Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our ZEN and TONIC talk today. And I'm Dr. Sasikala, and I'll be talking today about how to reclaim back your Zen, the way to de-stress yourself, and also to detox. Okay, and there are a few reasons why I chose this topic, especially the word stress. Okay, it may look like something which is very, something which is just around the block about. It's just a stress management after all, right? But I'm going to talk it. I'm going to put things in a different way. How you're going to look at stress in a different way, because I believe that if you want to combat something, you have to know about it first. For example, if you're going for a battlefield, you need to know what are your enemy's strength and weakness in order for you to come up with strategies that you can do to win the game, right? So exactly over here. And stress is a very relevant topic right now because, number one, we are living in the world of achievement, right? We are setting our goals very high and we are multitasking. We want to hit the sales, we want to hit the goals, and we are very much in the dopamine loop whereby like each achievement is making us to do more and more and more every time, and without realizing we are actually getting stuck in this dopamine feedback loop, which is making us to go into stress. And what actually is stress, no one is clear about. Some people may think that stress is an event which happening to you. It can be a negative event which happens to you. So it can be a physical thing, it can be a trauma, it can be a injury, it can be a accident, right? Some may think that it's a psychological event which happened to us. So it could be an argument, it could be a divorce, or um it could be some psychological negative event. But what if stress is actually your response to an event which is a threatening or a challenging event? So it's not actually the event itself, but how are you responding to that particular event? So that is what actually stress is. So stress is perceived differently by different people. So it's not the event. Again, it's your response towards it. So biologically inside our cell, there is always an internal environment which is in balance. And when there is an external force which comes and push the balance out, you need the response that your cell need to put in to bring things back into balance. That's the cell stress. So the stress is not only happening to our body, but also to our each and every part of our cells. And so it's not stress that kills us, it's our reaction to the stress which actually matters. So is all stress bad? No. Stress can be good as well, because you need a certain amount of stress in order for you to achieve something. But too much of the stress is what going to throw you out of the balance. So we were cavemen once. We were hunter gatherers. So we used to live in the cave during Stone Age. We used to come out to hunt, to find food, right? So at that time, we had this acute stress, which we call as primitive survival response, also known as flight or fright. So this is an acute stress response which happens to our body for a certain amount of period because we want to overcome that. It's our survival instinct, or we call it as a life-threatening event that we need to overcome. And this primitive survival response, you don't learn it. It is an innate thing which is inside your body. Okay, I would call it as an innate intelligence or innate inner built system that immediately responds when you face a challenging situation. So if you see a tiger in front of you, automatically things, physiological response will start in your body, which is your senses becomes sharper. and the time slows down and your pupil dilates. You may look at things more clearer. You start to sweat out. Why? Because you don't want the predator to grab you. You want to easily escape. And the digestion stops and there's a tiger in front of you, you wouldn't want to eat at that time. So your blood circulation diverts away from the gut and it goes to the muscles in the legs and arms to prepare you to run. Okay. And heart beats faster because it needs to supply more blood to the rest of your body. The muscles becomes more tense because you need to run. Okay. And we breathe in more rapidly because all the cells needs more oxygen. So basically everything is preparing you to run, to fight, or to flight, or to run away. Okay. And the tiger is not supposed to be there every time. The tiger eventually goes away, right? So this particular flight and fright have to stay only for a very short period of time, and you have to go back to this balance. However, in this modern world, there is no tiger, but you have a lot of modern tigers, which are your traffic jams, bright light, breaking news, pandemic, sleepless nights, all these things. How we perceive is we perceive it as modern tiger. Okay. So we are still cavemen, but our living in a modern world. So our primitive survival response is still flight and fright to all these things which is happening over here. So we are still a caveman, but we are living in the age of anxiety and stress. So our response to all these things is still the same as how you meet a tiger. Okay. So this is a very, very important thing. When we are stuck in this, it is no more an acute stress response. It is a chronic stress response where you can never come back to the balance and you are practically bathing inside the stress hormone, adrenaline and cortisol 24 hours from the time you wake up till the time you sleep. So you have something called as stress tolerance bucket. So this is your epigenetic expressions, how much of a stress that a person can take at a certain period of time. So everyone is built with a different size of a bucket. Some people's bucket is small and some people's bucket is big. Okay. So when your bucket starts to overflow, that's when you're going to start to see symptoms. And there is a book written by Sapolsky. He tells that, the topic of the book is why zebras don't get ulcers. So it's a very interesting book where they talk about stress in a very humor way. You see, after the lion kills one of the zebras in the group, the other zebras immediately return to baseline state after an immediate flight and fright event. They don't stuck and keep thinking about the lion's attack. But we humans are not like that. We worry and we stuck in the event. So we don't resolve conflicts like how animal does. We always stay in the chronic response, but they acute resolve, return to baseline. Now, you have something called as limbic system. This is the oldest part of your brain. So this, although we evolved from Stone Age to become a modern man, our limbic system is still the same. This particular limbic system, right, it doesn't know rational. It doesn't know logic. It doesn't know past, present, or future. It only asks one question. Is it danger or not? Should I survive or thrive? So there are two antennas which will keep scanning. One will be scanning your outer environment. Another one will be scanning your inner environment. The outer environment will keep asking, is my surrounding safe for me to live? So it's looking at, is there a danger like tsunami, or is it a tiger, or is it safe? Is it safe? Keep asking. Same goes to your internal environment. So what are these internal environment? These are your toxins, your heavy metals, gut dysbiosis, bacteria, parasites, lack of vitamins, poor nutrition, poor sleep. All this comes into your internal dangers where your limbic system is keep scanning every minute of the day. Plus negative emotions like you worry. If you worry about future, the limbic system doesn't know about past, present, or future. All it knows that right now you are facing something right now. Okay, so it will immediate the response that it will give is flight and fright, like how you're meeting a tiger in front of you. So once the limbic system it gets a danger signal, immediately it will on to survive. So there is two different systems will be activated when you survive and thrive. Okay, so here you can see it's like a seesaw. When one system gets activated, another system completely shuts down. So in thrive is where your immune system works, your digestion works properly, your digestive juices will be secreted, and your bowel will move properly. Your hormones will be secreted normally. Okay, but in survive, this is like a threat. It's more like a fight or flight. So there's only three things works there, which is one is heart. Your heart rate increases to pump more blood everywhere. Lung, you breathe in faster to get more oxygen. And your blood sugar. This is something we call as adrenal diabetics. That means you're not having actual diabetic, but because of the stress that you're experiencing, so your body thinks that, hey, this fella needs more sugar in order to be converted to energy. Let's mobilize everything and push all the sugar to the blood so that, he's facing a threat. Let's supply him with all the fuel so that he can go and fight. So this is an adrenal diabetic. So people with adrenal diabetics, they will be having putting in a large amount of insulin. They'll be controlling their diets, but yet their sugar will be still uncontrolled. So you have to look at your stress, the chronic stress response in order to control the sugar. And okay, so when the limbic system gets activated, and if let's say it's a danger, it sends signal to adrenal gland. So adrenal gland is the gland which is responsible to produce the stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. So adrenaline is acute response. For example, like when you're driving and something come across and you put a sudden brake, that's your adrenaline. That's acute response. Now, cortisol is something very chronic. It increases very slowly and you don't even realize that it's increasing. Okay, and the culprit here is not the adrenaline, but the culprit here is the cortisol most of the time. Okay, and this Hans Selye, he is a very famous scientist back then. So he came up with general adaptation syndrome. So he described stress into these three stages. You have a alarm stage, then you go to a resistance stage, then you go to a exhaustion stage. So it's very important for you to know at which stage are you in the whole stress. So practically alarm stage is where the acute stress response, fight or flight. Next, you have the resistance stage where you're still standing and fighting. And finally, exhaustion is you go into the burnout. So as I mentioned just now, stress is not always bad. So you need a little amount of stress in order to be working optimally. If not, you are more like inactive or laid back. So the optimum stress is important for you to be in balance. Now, if too much of stress, you get exhausted. And finally, you break down or burn out at the final stage. So let's talk about alarm stage. So in alarm stage, as I mentioned just now, practically there's a tiger in front of you. So all the system gets activated, like what I mentioned just now, preparing you to run, flight and fright. Nothing else works. Okay. Now, second, resistance stage. So this stage, two things can happen. Number one is once the first scenario, the danger goes away, or you manage to solve the conflict. So in that case, the body realizes that fine, there's no more danger. I can go back to my balance. Then repair system is activated, right? So once the alarm stage, you need to repair. Because during the alarm stage, you use up all your nutrients, vitamins in order for you to survive the event. So your body starts to heal. How if the second scenario where the danger is still there? You still haven't overcome the danger yet. Now, things get very interesting here because the body will start to adapt, will learn how to live with the stress. And when the body does that, you don't even know that you're mobilizing all that you can in order for you to cope up with the stress. So you start to meet with the environment strain and demand, and you think that you still can cope. You are coping, but actually you are draining out all the nutrients. And finally, when your body can't keep up forever, the resources becomes limited and it will gradually become depleted. So in resistance stage, it's a very mixed sign, and people will have different signs and symptoms. So you have irritability, frustration, mind cannot shut down. So it's like you're wired and you are tired at the same time. So we can say that it's as though like your body has starts to lag, but the mind is still running at a 100-kilometer speed, but the body is lagging already. You're tired, but you cannot sleep. And there's always a sign where there's a big drop of energy, especially after eating lunch around 2 to 3 p.m. And because of this drop in energy, you start looking for crutches. You want a coffee. You want to smoke. Why? Because you want to keep up your energy. And body will start to make long-term metabolic adjustment because you need to mobilize these things in order to face the stress. So what are those? It starts to increase the blood glucose because it's preparing you to adapt the stress. Blood volume increases because it starts to retain back all the salts and water. So you have increased blood pressure. Increases cholesterol because cholesterol is one of the fuel to burn energy. Protein synthesis decrease. Now the body prioritize one, and the body will kind of deprioritize another one. So protein synthesis decrease, muscle mass decrease. Intestine slows down, so digestion becomes slow. You start to get localized inflammation like hives or allergies. So these are the mixed signs that you already can start to see in the resistant stage. And these are non-specific complaints that when you go and do a blood test, everything is going to be normal in this stage, but you have those symptoms. Next, you move on to exhaustion stage. Now, when everything is depleted, the nutrients becomes depleted. You can't maintain a normal function, become exhausted. And this is where a long-term damage happen and the decompensation happen. So what you can see here, salt cravings, sweet cravings would have already started in the late part of the resistant stage itself. Electrolyte imbalance, increased thirst because of the electrolyte imbalance, irregular heartbeat, you feel palpitation or you feel arrhythmia, lightheaded upon standing. When immediately you stand, you feel a bit dizzy. Your blood pressure control is not very good anymore. Unexplained body pain, lethargic, muscle weakness, brain fog. Even here, chronic fibromyalgia happens in this case sometimes. So sequelae of exhaustion stage, you go into a adrenal fatigue. So the adrenal gland has been keeping up with the stress for a very long period of time that eventually it fades. So as you can see, the purple line there is going to be the normal cortisol level. So normally the cortisol level is highest in the morning to drive you for the day, to give you the motivation to start the day. Eventually, it has to come down, and by bedtime, it has to be low for you to sleep. But in adrenal fatigue, what happens is that the early morning cortisol itself is already low. So you need to start a day with a coffee and a coffee and a coffee and a coffee. So these are your crutches that you have to watch out. So one thing about crutches is that crutches can be different for different people. Some people, they go for coffee, salty snacks, some sweets, smoking, some even heavy exercises. Because heavy exercises, it releases some kind of endorphin for you too. It boosts the energy, but it depletes further. Things crash down immediately after that. And most often, we don't realize that we are in it. And we tend to ignore the symptoms, thinking that, oh, it was just a too much work for today. But all these are the telltale signs. And adrenal fatigue, in this stage, you already can see the manifestation of the disease like diabetes, hypertension, autoimmune, not even the clinical part yet, but the subclinical part has already, things below the iceberg already started already, just that it haven't flowed yet. Okay. And 5 warning signs to watch out for adrenal fatigue. Number 1, weakened immunity. When you talk about weakened immunity, it's like keep getting flu month after month after month, frequent illness, cold sores, and worsening of allergies and food sensitivities. So we can always see patients telling us that I don't used to get these allergies before. Those foods are okay for me last time, but now I cannot take all these foods anymore. So you can see that it starts, initially it's ache. Then after that, after 6 months, I cannot take nuts. After 6 months, I'm allergic to that. So it progresses very slowly. These are the foods that okay for you last time, but now you cannot anymore. Okay. And again, subclinical and also clinical autoimmune symptoms will start to come out. So subclinical symptoms, it's very non-specific. Again, fatigue, lethargic, body pain, tiredness, where you can't see anything in the blood test. Next, weight gain. Now, in weight gain, what happened is that if it, okay, like imagine your car, your body is like a car, and the engine is your thyroid and the fuel is your adrenal gland. So if you're adrenal fatigue, you don't have fuel anymore, you can't press on the accelerator, right? The car will break down. So that's exactly what's happening here. When you go into adrenal fatigue, immediately thyroid slows down, your metabolism slows down, and your fat, you have start to have abdominal fat distribution. So you can see people in the 40s, 50s, they'll be struggling to lose weight. Even though you're going for gym, I'm not eating much, but still I'm putting on weight. So all these are the telltale signs. Please look into your adrenal. Look at which stage of your, which stages of the stress are you at. Okay. And the next sign, hormonal imbalances, a very important one. If you see here, right, all these hormones, they come from one common one, which is cholesterol. From cholesterol, only all the hormones comes. Cholesterol is like the mother hormone. So we are using statins. Okay, statins reduces cholesterol. Yes, but you also face this thing where it depletes all your other hormones as well. And what happens during stress, something called as cortisol still happens. Your body prioritize, want to secrete this stress hormone. So it will divert things more on, sorry. So it will divert things to make cortisol more. So you will have less estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So women tend to go into menopause much earlier. So if menopause was to happen at 60s, now it is at 50, 55, 40. Menstruation gets scanty. And there is also something called as andropause for men, where the testosterone starts to decline, there'll be erectile dysfunction, there'll be lack of libido. All these are the telltale signs. Anxiety and depression, another symptom of adrenal fatigue as well. So, yes, it is because of neurotransmitter imbalance. And usually, if the anxiety and depression is because of adrenal fatigue, cannot be helped with antidepressant anymore. So, there is one question that we always like to ask if you want to differentiate whether it's a true depression or is it a depression because of adrenal fatigue. It looks the same. Biologically you can't differentiate it and there's no blood test to differentiate. But when you ask a patient, what would you do if you were fine? What would you do if you were okay? A person who is in depression can never give us an answer. They're unable to answer that. But people with adrenal fatigue will list down all the goals will list down all the plans and will also tell you the frustration that they feel because they can't do all these things. And they would have tried so many things and yet they are still stuck there. So this can actually differentiate things. And next, insomnia and poor sleep. So people will tell that I'm tired, but as soon as I try to sleep, I'm wide awake. I slept, but I'm not refreshed in the morning. I fall asleep, but I wake up in the middle and I cannot sleep back. So all these things has to do with the adrenal fatigue. So in functional medicine or integrative medicine, we have ways to look into things to see in which part are you. So we do blood tests, but we look at cortisol or DHEA. These are your stress hormones that we can check. Now, you even can do saliva hormones. Okay, some say that saliva hormones are more accurate compared to the blood. But saliva hormones are more expensive and we have to send it over to US. So we can manage with blood tests. We do like 4-point tests where you can do in the morning, you can do in the afternoon, you can do in the evening and night to see where is the curve of the cortisol is. And with that, you can know where are you. Because in the alarm stage, you'll have the cortisol higher than normal because you are in the flight and fright. And the DHEA is also high. When you go into the resistance stage, DHEA starts to come down, cortisol still holding on. But when you're in the exhaustion and the adrenal fatigue, both starts to drop. So this will help you to know where are you. And we also do like postural hypertension. We check for blood pressure, standing and also lying blood pressure. And then you can see the drop of the blood pressure there. Waist hip ratio to check for your abdominal circumference. Bioresonance scan, where all these tools can be used to detect things even before it starts to blow out big. Yeah, this is how we measure the abdominal circumference or the waist hip ratio. Okay, it tells a lot actually. The waist hip ratio of 0.8, supposed to be not more than 0.8 for a female and also not more than 0.9 for a male. And this really talks about cardiovascular risk just by measuring this alone. Okay. Now, here you can see that you have the liver, gut, insulin, ovary, even can be testes for male, brain, inflammation, thyroid. Everything is linked to adrenal. So that one single filler adrenal there can make so many things haywire. And that thing comes from stress. Okay, now adrenal has its own reserve, or we can call it as adrenal bank account. So you need to save on the adrenal in order for you to use it for your stress. So adequate sleep, good nutrition, exercise, the amount of time you're spending to do all these things, it's like a deposit inside your adrenal bank account. Okay, where you're going to use it to swipe for your job and stress. Okay, and if you claim more than what you're giving in, you are going into a negative balance. And that's when a simple way of understanding things for the financial advisors. Okay, so fixing back your adrenals is practically fixing back your engine and also putting in fuels back in. Okay, so how do we do that? Again, find your rhythm. Don't get stressed just by doing this. Most of the time when people are going through this wellness journey, they get stressed. It's a stress by its own because they feel like not good enough and I feel I still have this. And you go into the rabbit hole of searching more, and you're falling back into the stress loop again. Okay, so just take it chill and just do as you can. Usually they say that to climb the stairs, start with one step first. Don't look at the whole stairs. Okay, so again, you want to manage the stress. Number one, first thing first. What is your perception about stress? That is the first thing. You have to change your individual perception of the event. If you think I am stressed, then nothing is going to happen. But if you can flip the system to trick it, then it's going to be different. Remember, I told that limbic system, it doesn't know past, present, or future. It doesn't know rational. It doesn't know logic. It doesn't know anything. Okay, so what we do? Flip the limbic system. Trick it to give a different meaning to the stressor. Similar, stress is a dessert spelled backwards. Okay, so there's a way to trick it. And so you have this routine things that you can do. So we call it as the morning routine. So gratitude is like an emergency brake to your flight and fright. It's like an emergency brake to your limbic system. So most of the time it's autopilot. It is just going and you don't even realize that you are there. Okay, just a simple thank you. It gives a signal to the limbic system that, hey, this guy is happy. Wait a minute. I am in flight and fright, but he's telling thank you. That means he's happy. And there's an immediate emergency brake there. And your things start to shift. And again, you visualize and also do all this affirmation as though things are happening now. So another trick is that if you try to visualize things opposite of what is happening. So your limbic system doesn't know it's past, present, or future, you see. So you trick it by visualizing as though it's happening now, contrast of what is the actual thing. So it gets tricked. Maybe it's happening now. Okay. And hydration is very important because especially in acute stress, you need to drink a lot of water to hydrate and exercise. Now here, high intensity training, not more than 20 minutes in case of adrenal fatigue. But because again, people may use it as a crutch. Okay, so we don't want that to happen. We don't want the fuels to get depleted more. And best is to do exercise in the morning because you release higher amount of endorphins in the morning compared to other time. So you can just have to spend around 20 minutes. Maybe the whole activity takes around 30 minutes. Okay. And they say that once you wake up, go outside to get the sunlight. Make sure the light goes into your eye and the limbic system knows that it's morning. Okay. Because it's very important because morning there's a different sets of hormone, night there's a different sets of hormone. Okay. Evening routine. Have an early dinner because late dinner, your cortisol, you're kind of messing up with the hormones again because your sugar rise. Blue screen off by 9 p.m. is very important because again, the blue screen is a threat for your limbic system. As a caveman during Stone Age, we didn't have handphone or blue light then. Okay, and gratitude journal again, a thank you because whatever you're going through the whole day, another emergency break at night. We need that. Okay, and sleep by 10:30, pitch dark. Why? Because we want melatonin to be secreted. Okay, and temperature of the aircon not lower than 23 because again if you put it too cold again it's a threat for your limbic system. It will think that you are in the cold weather. Oh yeah, so I have to, again it's a stress, you see. Okay, and sleep really restores adrenals. These are very important stuff. And at night, even when we are walking out, like in Bukit Bintang areas with all the billboards with the bright lights, that's a threat to the limbic system. Because for the limbic system, it's night. And why there is a bright light? It doesn't understand that it's a modern world. Okay, so, and also disco, going for nightclubs and all those things with the bright light, with the loud music. Again, your limbic system perceives that as threat also. Okay, and diet. I can't run away much from diet. So again, for your stress, anti-stress diet, low carb because you want to control the sugar. Moderate protein, high fat. These are good fats where your olive oils, your coconut oil, avocado, and all those things. Okay. Detox. You need to detox. Remember, there was an internal scan, external scan, and an internal scan. So your internal scan is all your toxins, heavy metals, your gut dysbiosis. You need to empty your bucket a bit. So do the detox. So gut cleanse, remove the toxins. We do infrared sauna, lymphatic massage, deep tissue massage. All this hydrogen bath is important for you to push you to the Zen mode. Breath work, another important thing, deep breathing exercises. So as you breathe in, you have to push out. And then as you exhale, you have to push in. So this push out and in movement of the abdomen, it releases stress. It tricks the limbic system to go into the parasympathetic. And there's something called as HRV, the thing over there. It's called as heart rate variability. There's a connection between your breathing and your heart rate. Okay, if you notice that when you are angry, negative emotion, your breathing becomes faster. Okay, you can use that bridge to go back the other way, where when you are angry, you use your breathing to calm down. Okay, so there is a machine, there is an app where you can do that. We call that as a heart rate variability app, and you can monitor it as well. So the consistency is the key. You need to repeat it every day, even for few seconds every day. It's enough. It's not like 2 or 3 times in a week, but I did it for 15, 20 minutes. That doesn't work. At least a few minutes, maybe 2 to 3 minutes a day of gratitude and all the other things, breath work, will really help. Okay, supplements. Now, optimizing nutritional deficiency is something that I look into as well, especially magnesium. So now there's a vicious cycle there. The more stress you are in, the more magnesium you lost. The more magnesium you lost, the more stress you are, and you are stuck in the loop. You cannot come out. So we need to put in magnesium and make sure you find the correct magnesium. You have magnesium citrate, threonate, glycinate. There's so many forms. Make sure you find the correct one. Okay, vitamin C is very important for adrenal fatigue recovery. Also, we look for adaptogens, ashwagandha, ginseng, lutero, even green tea, all those things. And we also do BHRT, just bioidentical hormone therapy, to increase the DHEA. So this is not the hormone therapy. This is made from plant-based yam or plant-based like soy. Okay, so you can take this DHEA to balance if someone is like really, really in adrenal fatigue, terrible adrenal fatigue. Sometimes we need to use the BHRT. And yep, come to the end part of my presentation. So practically stress is not what happens to us, but it's more into what is your response. And it is in our hand and something we can choose. Okay. Yep. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation.